All right, welcome to Unpacking R. Kelly. I am Alex Haynes, and my co-host here, Tiff Lanelle,
Hello.
and you. Welcome to Unpacking R. Kelly. This is a three-day series that we're gonna actually dive into. Hopefully, it'll be less as less as, as less about R. Kelly as possible, and more about changes that we can make in our communities, differences that we can make, and we can start a dialogue of talking to each other. Obviously, we'll just run through what this is. Obviously, our platform is Boss FM. Both myself and Tiff are an integral part of how things work here. This broadcast will air tonight, tomorrow again at 10, and Thursday at 10 p.m. as well. It'll also air tomorrow on our digital radio network. More information on that is at bossfm.com, and more on that. We'll talk about that throughout the show. We've got a number of guests that are going to talk about the startling series that many of you watched um, several days ago, and then we're gonna start to unpack it. So if you know somebody that watched the documentary or the docu series, whatever it's being called at this point, to some people a reality show, and you want them to, I want them to be a part of this conversation. I want them to connect to this conversation, and I want some valuable feedback. It's one thing to say that we're done with R. Kelly and we're upset with him and we can bash him on social media and there's lots of things that we can do with this, uh, and then not come up with any solutions so that we're not dealing with this in our homes and in our churches and in our communities and our workplaces. So before I go too far, and I'll talk a little bit about it, Tiff, I'll let you get your intro in, and then we'll unpack this a little bit and start talking to some of our guests.
Awesome. Ready for me?
Yeah, it's on you.
I mean, what is there to say? My name is Tiff Lanelle. Hello, y'all. It actually took me a while to watch this docu-series, reality show, documentary, whatever you want to call it at this point, because I knew that it was going to be a lot, and I needed to prepare myself and try to get my mind right so I could.
Do you feel like, I mean, you took time to prepare yourself. Do you feel like you really need to prepare? Do you feel like preparing yourself or in your preparation, do you feel like you were prepared for what you saw?
Um, I feel like I was as prepared as I could have been because I didn't watch it live. So I was able to hear some of the feedback prior to me watching it to kind of help myself mentally prepare before I viewed it.
Okay.
So I do feel like I went in probably a little bit more prepared than someone who just watched it live and didn't hear conversations about it previously. Um,
So when you watched it, and I just want to deep dive into it, right? A lot of us knew things about R. Kelly, and we've known, and just some background. If you're stumbling upon this, and for those of you that are watching and you just want us to jump right in, we're gonna get into it. I just have to preface some things for people that are going to stumble across this video on maybe on YouTube or listen to this audio back on our radio network, and you haven't seen the Surviving R. Kelly docu series that aired on Lifetime. It was a six-part series that aired over 3 days. It started last Thursday and went through Friday and Saturday with survivors of trauma and abuse by the famed R&B singer and really the loved R&B singer from our community, R. Kelly. And so there are so many thoughts and things that we have known and stories and rumors that we've heard. And Tiff, I spoke to you earlier today and recounted. I've been doing this radio thing for a long time, and I could pinpoint this morning. I've been reporting on R. Kelly and this story for at least 10 years, and
right.
put my fingers on something that showed that we knew how deep and what an issue this was. So why do you think it's taking this series? And at this point, he's still doing what this series um, is exposing him for doing, and a lot of things are likely alleged because he hasn't really been convicted of anything per se. Why do you think this is running rampant in our community, and this is his practices haven't been able to be stopped?
Unfortunately, the theme that keeps repeating anytime I have a conversation about this series or about this issue in general, it has been the voices of Black women are not valued. And unfortunately, they're not even valued by other Black women. And
Hmm.
we are not valuing ourselves, unfortunately. So it's hard for the community, probably, to value us when we are not valuing ourselves. We're not valuing our sisters. Um, and I think part of the reason, and even some of the celebrities that have come out and talked about it and apologized and, you know, everything else, even some of them have came out and said, you know what, yeah, my mistake. It's on me. I did not value the voices of the Black women telling their stories and sharing their experiences, or just flat out, I didn't believe them.
So you said something there that cut me really deep. Black women not even believing Black women. Do
Right.
you think? How does that stop? And does it stop? Is it something? I mean, aside from us talking about it here, where does it stop?
That is a different answer for everyone. One, it takes acknowledgement that you are not valuing your sisters or valuing yourself before you can find what the solution is for you in your life, in your mom's life, in your auntie's life, in your sister's life, in your friend's life. Um, until we can fully acknowledge as women and as a community that there is a problem, we can't really do anything to fix it. We can't do anything to address it. We can't answer the question of what is the solution to valuing ourselves and having our voices valued if we are not even fully acknowledging that they're not being valued and that we're not being valued. So it's kind of a step A, step B type of situation where you have to take one step in acknowledgement before you can take the next step in resolving it.
I hear you. I want to bring Kristen Denise in to talk on this as well. Kristen, you watched um, the series Surviving R. Kelly, and I don't.
No,
Oh, you.
no, I
So you
didn't
didn't
watch it.
watch. You didn't watch.
No, no.
Okay,
I did
so
not watch the series, but I am well versed in the conversation.
I'm interested in hearing your perspective on R. Kelly and the series and the feedback that you've seen, because obviously you've seen the chatter and you've seen the reactions from people watching it. What are your initial
Absolutely.
thoughts, and why do you think people are just now becoming outraged?
So I was initially annoyed because, as you stated already, this is not new news. This has been reported on time and since I was people have been talking about the predatory behaviors of R. Kelly. And I'll admit that when I was a teenager, because Aaliyah's a couple of years older than me, and I'm from Detroit, so I have friends who went to school with her. Like, she was a very accessible person in Detroit, because she still went to high school like a normal kid, even though she was Aaliyah. At the time, I didn't fully understand what was going on, so I didn't think there was anything wrong with still liking R. Kelly and listening to his music. But that also shows why children are not in a position to be in consensual relationships with adults, because I was a kid the same age while this was going on. And I just remember over the years more stories coming out. And probably about 12 or 13 years ago, there was this extensive article that came out that listed like 17 different cases at the time that had come up against R. Kelly. And these women were sharing their stories of how they were basically used and abused by him. And I was like, as a Black woman in particular, as a Black woman that works with young women, I cannot continue to support somebody that only gets away with his abuse because of who he chooses to abuse.
Okay,
Hmm.
so that's deep. You said you saw 17 cases come up against him, and it wasn't until you saw those 17 cases that you made the decision that you could no longer support him.
Yeah, but that was
But
still
what
like
was it
13
like
to 14 years ago.
and that was, and here we are, 13 to 14 years later, and people are
Hmm.
still standing behind him with all of this. And the last piece of what you said is he's only getting away with it because of the victims that he chooses. What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. He is. So R. Kelly is illiterate. He's not stupid, right? He
Mm.
knows the value our society places on young Black women, and that is not high. As a person again who works with children, I listen to conversation adults have. Oh, you need to watch her. She gonna be fast. It's not her fault the way her body is shaped, and why are you looking at a child that way? You have the issue, not the child. So people consistently project their issues, their insecurities, their sick thoughts onto children, which then makes them viewed less as innocent children. And because of that, then they make them complicit in their abuse. You are not complicit in your abuse because your body is shaped a certain way. You had no control over that. I'm going to say a 14-year-old is more accountable for the abuse she receives than the grown man that's abusing her. That's ridiculous. We don't let you vote. We don't let you drink. We don't let you drive. We won't let you smoke because we know you're not old enough to make a decision like that. But you're suddenly complicit because there's an adult who knows that they can manipulate you and abuse you. And because society doesn't value you, they won't have consequences for it.
That is a lie. You said a lot right there. I'm going to come back to you, Kristen, because I really want to unpack that piece and that last piece of what you said. Gerald is joining us, and I just lost Gerald. He watched the documentaries as well. Gerald, thanks for joining.
No problem. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Well, did you guys do this today on purpose? Do you know what today is, ironically?
Tell me what today
It's R. Kelly's birthday today. Like, legit. You just can't
is.
Put my tea on that one.
Yeah, so happy birthday, R. Kelly, I guess.
Happy birthday, R.
This is the
Kelly.
gift that's about to keep on giving.
Why do you know that?
Don't ask Gerald questions like that.
I mean, I guess it's interesting. So, Gerald, you watched.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. Did you watch all six parts? I
Um,
know you were watching. We were um, communicating back and forth during the first two episodes, and I was at. It was complete overload for me. And we're still talking about the beginning of it, and I don't want to spend too long on this because obviously there's so much that we want to unpack. But your initial thoughts when you watched it, uh, was this information that you already knew? Did you learn some new information? Is there something that you took from this? Um, your
ye-
thoughts.
I'm about to sound unpopular, I guess, because I'm the guy and I really don't even care here. But because I don't support him. But just off the first two parts, I'm mad at everybody else. Like if there was a list in what ascending order, he would be the last person. What I did learn from that is
Wait.
it,
So you're saying if there was a list of people that you would be mad at
it
out
just
of everybody involved,
he and I'm
based on this documentary, he's the last person on the list that you're
and I
upset
and I
with.
and I want to explain that too because what I gathered from that personally is that it was not really something that he did more so he had an entire tribe of people go get girls, see him with girls. No, what did that one guy say? He said, I knew they were 15, 16, 17. I just didn't feel like IDing them, so I left. There, there were too many people enabling him. And while he is terrible, like there has been no retribution. Well, there's been no punishment for the people that allowed this to happen. Because if it was murder and somebody was like, oh yeah, I knew that was happening, they would be an accessory to murder. But these people just get to skate and like, well, yeah, I saw it and I bounced. And so it's not just the people that saw it. I'm also mad at the parents because there are too many parents that's just sort of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna let my child like fly out to where he is
So
and go on
uh,
tour.
what I'm gathering, and let me know if I'm wrong. It's like you knew certain stuff about R. Kelly already, right? So you knew certain things already. You get all this information. You're watching the docu series, all this overload of information, and your initial reaction is, "What the f is wrong with all of the people around him?"
All the people. That and I think that Andrea Kelly is a bit of an opportunist and a liar. That's throw the whole person away.
I am not going to say that I'm gonna come back to that, but I'm almost inclined to agree with you. Ashley is joining us. Ashley, how are you?
Hello, evening, everyone. How are you all?
I'm
Hi,
great.
Ashley.
Thanks for joining in on the conversation. Ashley, you watched the Surviving R. Kelly series
Um,
and or pieces of it?
I've watched pieces of it. To be honest, after the first episode on the second night, so, well, I guess that's the third episode. I couldn't handle it anymore. I just couldn't watch it. I couldn't continue to watch.
Okay, so you saw, and I'm really looking for initial reactions here. So, you know, a lot of us, and there's certain things where we all were at a different place. Daryl just shared like his initial reactions. Tiff has shared, I've shared. You made it to episode 3. What about it made you say, I can't do this anymore?
It was a couple of things. It was the manipulation of a child's mind, a minor, that just really bothered me. It's something sinister about it. Then it was also, as my the guest said, it was the enabling. It was like all these adults around and no one advocated for these young girls. No one stood up and said, hey, something is going on. No one thought to go and say, I need to, like, this is sick. I know he's having sex with these girls. I'm going to call the cops. I would even say, since this aired, I've listened to a lot of interviews by his brother, Kerry Kelly, the younger brother. And though I believe he was trustful, it was like, at one point he interviewed with someone and he said that he knew he had saw some girls he saw in the mall that his brother sent for him to go and get their numbers, but he decided not to go and get the numbers because he knew those girls were underage. However, he ended up seeing a video later on, and those same girls he saw in the mall was on the tape having sex with R. Kelly. And even in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's your brother, but you still hadn't said anything until this year, 2018. That happened in 93. It I just couldn't continue to watch it. I listened to a couple of interviews. My initial reaction was I was disgusted. I was more so disgusted with the all the other adults around, because it was not like he was doing it alone. He had help. He had people with him. And I can't feel any kind of way about a young lady, a young girl. She's a girl. She doesn't know anything about anything. And even the parents, I don't know what kind of parents, and I know children's lie, but I don't know what kind of parenting was happening then, dropping your child. I don't know. It was a lot of questions behind it
I
that I
got
felt,
you.
you know,
I got you. I got you. And what I'm gathering is, and Ashley and Daryl, stay with us. We're going to come right back to you. I want to unpack this with you, Tiff, for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
What I got from Gerald and what I got from Ashley is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I knew these things about R. Kelly. I'm frustrated about these things by R. Kelly. Nobody's ever done anything about them. And what I would calculate from what I've heard, let me know what you think. We knew these things. The community knew these things. I'm just an innocent bystander going about my damn business every day. I'm living my life. I heard these things about R. Kelly. He didn't get convicted. What can I do? I watched this documentary. All these people knew. Nobody did. Like the people close to him, nobody did anything. And what I'm gathering is that people are more outraged by the people and the enablers around him, because it's like, okay, you see this. You're here. You're with these people. Like
Right.
you're here. And to be honest, I shared my thoughts, and we haven't gone into all the episodes. But my initial thoughts when they started talking about R. Kelly going to McDonald's, and he's at these McDonald's, and I had a tweet that I'm still getting retweets on from that night. I'm like, okay, so they're 24, 25, 26, 27 at this McDonald's out picking up 12, 13, and 14 years old. Like, and a mother tweeted me back this morning and said, my kids are 16. They leave school and they go eat fast food. And I don't even think about grown men cruising for them at the McDonald's. And I gave her that. I said, okay, I get you. Maybe you're just thinking your kids are leaving school. They're going to have fun. Your thought isn't there. My issue is with the manager at the damn McDonald's. If I've never worked at a McDonald's, but if in my McDonald's you're 27 and you're 12, what the hell is going on? Like I couldn't sit back and watch it. So my question, not even about these people, where were the adults? Like, where, I gotta say, and to that point, I get Ashley and I get Gerald. Where were the adults?
Right. The problem
What does
is
adult, like, what does adult even mean?
the problem is that the adults were right there. The accountant was there, the assistant was there, the managers were there, the posse was there, his brother was there. Um, I mean, his older brother, Bruce, is it Bruce? Whatever his name is.
Bruce, Carrie, one of them.
The older one that was in jail.
Lock them both up. Lock them all
Right.
up. The whole family. Lock them all up.
He didn't even see anything wrong with. He didn't see anything wrong with a couple of the things that R. Kelly was
Yeah,
doing. One, that
I
he was
don't.
sleeping with young girls, and two, when we want something, we're just aggressive. That's just the way that the Kelly men are. That's
Yeah,
just
he's.
how
I
we
mean,
are.
and further, he said. I mean, I like him a little older. He likes him a little younger. What's wrong
Right.
with that?
Everybody
Yeah,
has
yeah,
preferences.
yeah. That yeah.
So
There is a problem there at the core.
right.
But aside from his family, like we know there's a family issue there. And what about everybody else? Like people have to be held accountable, have to be held responsible. And I think that responsibility comes with parenting. I'm not a parent. If I was a parent, I would be responsible. I think that if you're going to lay down and have a child, or you're going to have multiple children, and you're responsible for bringing life onto the earth, you got to be held responsible for what goes on with them. You have to be held accountable. I get that you're not thinking about it. Now that you're watching this, I bet you parents are thinking about, where are my kids going after school? Like, they're at a
I bet you
fast
there's
food
still some that
restaurant.
aren't.
Yeah, and that part.
I bet you there's some that still aren't. Well, that ain't my child. My child is different. Just like one of the parents in the video said, well, that's my child. I'm right here with my child. I can see her. I don't give a rat's ass if I know, because at the point that half of this docuseries was after the sex tape, a good majority of the stories were after the sex tape.
And
Whether
can't
you
even
did
be
it or
right,
not,
and can't even be prosecuted.
right. Whether you did it or not, I'm not risking, and I don't have children either, but I have talked to a few parents, including my own mother, over the last couple of days. Whether you did it or not, I am not willing to risk the foot that I just made on that human being. I'm not willing to risk a single hair, eyelash, eyebrow, anything on that child with somebody who's even been accused. But let's go further. There was a tape. Now, I admittedly have never watched the tape, never had the desire to watch the tape, don't want to see it. But the very small snippets that they showed in the docuseries, it's very clearly R. Kelly. Very clearly R. Kelly. So,
Well, you've never seen the tape. I've seen it. It's him. And like I said, this is something I've reported on for years and years and years. I want to bring Kristen back, and I want to bring Gerald back, because as we start to unpack this a little bit more, it goes deeper than just what we saw in the tape, right? It goes deeper than R. Kelly, his brothers, the enablers, and then it goes to the community. So once we start to look at the community, Kristen, where do you think the community comes in when it comes to our responsibility to not only be aware and cognizant of these situations, um, but even protectors to children?
So the community failed these girls in a major way, right? The community like failed times 10 because we do have a responsibility. The issue is that we don't really have community anymore. We don't have real community. We don't know our neighbors. When I go home and visit my mama, my neighborhood is still the same. Those are the people that have invested in me, that love me. So if they saw something going awry, they said something, right? Because I don't just belong to Deborah Ann, I belong to all of them. But we don't have that mentality as a community anymore. So that's number one. Number two, again, as I said earlier, he is illiterate, not stupid, and he picked his victims very carefully. When you're dealing with people who are impoverished, when you're dealing with people who are low education, low income, and trying to survive, we're saying, where are the parents? Half of these parents were probably at work trying to keep lights on and trying to keep food in the house. And you can't say no if you haven't been in that situation. As a person that works with kids on a daily basis, who has worked with low income kids in particular for the last 7-8 years, the vast majority of parents are doing the best they can with what they have. I
I hear
can't
you. So
compare
so
what
and not to cut you off, but you said something and it triggered me a little bit. Right? We're
mm-hmm.
having this conversation because we need to know what we are doing, what we can do different. We need to understand how we prevent this and
Right?
then protect.
Absolutely.
And you said the majority of parents are doing the best that they can with what they have and what they know. And I was triggered because I don't have kids. And so while I think my initial thought is that I would be protective if I was aware of it, if I'm not thinking of it, and I think that's why we need to have the conversation. We all have to be thinking about it because for it to stop in our community, it has to be something that is on discussed regularly. It has to be. We as a people have to know it's our responsibility to step in these situations as well. Like
Absolutely.
and not to say that it's gonna be comfortable to go and step up to somebody that's 27 cruising around some 12 year olds. But if you see something, say something. I mean, the white people do it all the time. They're calling the police on us every damn day for drinking water and
So,
barbecuing.
Absolutely.
but
So,
I
like,
do.
if they're, and
Yep.
I get like
Mhm.
you do. How
And
do
so that
we need to collectively, like, we
right?
need
But
whatever is in you.
you
You've got to share that,
so
and
I'm involved in kids' lives. I don't have children either. I ain't got nobody I gotta take home, can't claim nobody on my taxes legally. I ain't got that, right? I ain't got a dog, I ain't got nothing I gotta take care of. But I make it a point to invest in the kids in my community. And when you invest in them, you act differently. I remember very particularly a little girl in my church youth group. She was in high school. She asked me to go with her to look at prom dresses. I said, cool. We at the mall looking at prom dresses. Well, she tried to play me for the okie doke, and she had this gentleman, this Negro, trying to meet her at the mall too, right? And so he thought I was one of the kids initially, right? Because we looking at prom dresses together. And I started grilling this gentleman. How old are you? Do you know how old she is? What are you doing here? And he asked me eventually, he said, how old, like, who are you? I said, I'm a youth ministry leader at her church. Who are you?
hmm.
He left. He left. And I
Yeah,
Wow.
told
but
her,
so
any young
I
man
think
that can't stay around because a responsible adult is with you is not somebody that has good intentions for you, regardless of what he said,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that means I had to be invested in her, to be invited to be a part of her life, so that when she did that, I was there, right? I run up on people all the time. Now, mind you, I'm a 6'1" black woman. Ain't many people gonna really mess with me too hard, uh,
touche.
right?
So
But
at that,
I'm
but to
very
that point though,
vocal.
that level of conviction and that level of that level of passion that you have and the desire that you have, because I mean, and I'll be honest, it's a little bit of selfishness and a little bit of just I'm in my own lane, I'm in my own zone, and it's even now I live in New York. These badass kids, I don't know these damn kids. I'm not even paying attention to these kids, but I should be, and I think this opens like I have a nephew that is just turned 2. He's got a sister. She's 6. I love her with all my heart. Now I think about it all the time. I would lose my mind if something happen if this is happening, and it's just something we have to be aware of, but we're not, because we're not having the conversations. And so my hope
You
is
got to
that we
treat
get
every
to the
kid
point.
like they're your niece and your nephew. I see every kid. I'm a community auntie. All my friends' kids call me Auntie Kristen, Auntie KD. I love children. They're innocent, they're beautiful, they're sweet, and they should all be protected, whether or not they are intimately related to me.
I think that's a
And
good point. Gerald, would you feel comfortable inserting yourself in a situation like this if you saw it happening?
I'm a former teacher, so I legally had to at some.
So you would.
Yeah, so I
Ashley,
mean, I would.
Ashley, what about you?
Um, yes, I would. It is. We live in a different day and age now, and to be honest with you, it depends. I could very well put myself in harm's way trying to do that. And I guess so it depends on, I'm not saying that I wouldn't, but it really would depend on how I'm inserting myself. Like, the crime is so like, it's just high now, and in our own community, and it's on us. So it depends. Like, you never know. With the way sex trafficking is here in Atlanta, that's where I reside. I'm from Atlanta. It's crazy now. My
I mean,
dad,
it's the number one place for like it has the highest rate of sex trafficking
and
in the
you
world.
never know what you're inserting yourself into. And so I'm not saying that I wouldn't. It's just like, you're really risking a lot, So I think it starts with, it does take a village to raise a child, but what is raising a child is information, is putting, morals and values and self-love into them, so they can recognize things for themselves, so they're not so easily lured by certain things, because that's where it starts from. A young lady trying to be in the attention of a older man, she doesn't know he's telling her anything that he needs to tell her. Like you said, they choose them a certain type of way, and it's not just any young girl, it's the ones that are broken.
Hmm.
See, and that's where my issue with some of this after watching it. That's why I actually, Christian, with all due respect, I wish you would have watched the series, because
I do,
it
yes.
could be community all day, but that documentary proved that like the head of what should be that child's community are the reason that some of them got in the situation that they're in. Like, I got it on pause right now. Lisa Van Allen, her whole story bothers me for a lot of reasons. As a former teacher, as someone who has nieces and nephews, my brother is a cop. What should not be a thing, you could be mad at R. Kelly all day, but that girl said, and I quote, "I don't even have a talent. I was here with my friend who didn't want to go by herself to a shoot or a tryout." The girl never made it anywhere, but Lisa Van Allen did. And you know what started to happen? Her parents, during the school year, was letting this girl go and fly and be on tour buses all the time by herself. We can cry about community all day, but if a
Hmm.
parent is not doing what the hell they're supposed to be doing,
And
that's
and
sick.
I wanted to go there. We're gonna jump there. Y'all hold on for me, because I think you're right. We can do all that we want to do, and there's a point where it becomes about responsibility. You know, like, okay, yeah, we've got predators out there. We have people that will do anything for the love of money, and really a lot of this, everything that we see, like everything that happened because somebody was getting paid, whether they worked for R. Kelly or they thought R. Kelly was going to give them an opportunity. These girls were excited about it. You cannot say, I watch these people. I watch these people that 17 years of R. Kelly's history, and you bring your 17-year-old daughter to an R. Kelly concert. You let her get pulled up on stage, and then you let her go backstage with him, and then up into like this is all about money. And then my issue with this, and I feel like we're jumping ahead, but it's okay. We got a couple days. And responsibility, like Tiff, when do we start holding people responsible? Who's responsible for this? Like, yes, R. Kelly is terrible. He needs to be under a jail. Mauled, balls pulled off, toenails picked off. And then thrown to alligators. I agree with all of that, but from a responsibility standpoint, like, who else is responsible? And why aren't other people taking responsibility for this?
I don't think that some people are taking responsibility for it. It's just too late.
Who?
It's
Who?
almost like it's too
Who?
late.
Like
Not
who?
taking responsibility for it. Let me change my statement. They are admitting
That they
their
should have?
hand. Yes,
Like
they are
you,
admitting
like
that, you know
you,
what, I
and
should.
that's great. I am so
That's my
happy
bad.
that people can find the error of their ways. I'm so happy that people can admit it, but there is a such thing as too late.
Right. And unfortunately, right now, he's already gotten off on 21 counts of child pornography. And even when he was bonded out for that indictment, he went and did a sing along at a kindergarten. So, with church and community and civil rights leaders surrounding him and rallying behind him. So, once that indictment was dismissed after 6 years of delays, he either got wise or somebody else told him, hey, you need to at least go with the legal age of consent. So now what he is doing that we are aware of, the latter part of those stories, all of them were age 17.
Yeah, he got wiser,
He
and
got
he
wiser.
he wised up. So let me do this, because a recurring theme of the series and on social media and within circles, text groups that I've been in, conversations with people, colleagues, coworkers, non-friends, you know, people that I know, is that a people don't listen to black women, and that's the reason that this has continued to go on. But I would offer that even if they had listened to black women, there's a lack of responsibility here when we look at what we saw in the documentary. And the docu series alleges that R. Kelly married. They produced a marriage certificate, but it's still an allegation that he married Aaliyah when she was underage.
I'm
Aaliyah's
not calling that
mom,
an allegation. It's facts.
it's an allegation.
Whatever.
Aaliyah's mom says that it never happened.
There's a
So
whole
so
narrative.
hold on, let me finish. So, like I said, if we can believe black women here, but here's a parent that's not taking any responsibility at all.
Well, neither did Sparkle's
That's my second
brother
example. So
and
here we have
right,
Sparkle's niece.
who
They're alleging that this was
allegedly is
Sparkle's
still
niece
there.
in the sex tape,
Who
and
allegedly is still there.
she's still in his captivity,
Right.
seemingly willingly at this
Captivity.
point.
Right.
Even if we believed, which we do believe, it is her.
Right.
Again, we have the adults in this situation not taking responsibility.
Right.
So a lot of what we saw, yes, a lot of this of age women that he was with, no one's listening to the black women. But if we really look at the issue here, there's also people not taking responsibility.
Agreed,
So
including the parents.
there's validity in both. My question to you, and we started here. I want to come back here. We know people aren't listening to black women. They don't believe black women. They don't trust black women. You said yourself, you as a black woman have not. You've had instances where you don't trust black women. What is this? How? Like, why? That's why. And I'll bring Kristen back. I want to bring Ashley back to talk about that. But Tiff, your thoughts on why?
I was having this conversation. I've had this conversation with a couple of people of why we as Black women don't value ourselves and don't value each other enough. I think that it's very slowly a culture that is beginning to shift and change. However, I am always looking at the root cause of things. And I think a lot of our mentalities regarding ourselves are generational. They come from our grandmothers, our grandmother's grandmother, our grandmother's grandmother's grandmother, and it's been handed down from generation to generation to generation. And until we, again, acknowledge that there's an issue, hey, you know what? Little black girl, you are beautiful, you are valued. Until we acknowledge that that is not being said enough to our little black girls and our grown black women, we can't do anything about it. So we have to, again, acknowledge that it is a generational mindset. It's a generational curse. It's a generational thing that is handed down from one auntie saying, you better watch that when she fast, to that little girl growing up being told she was fast all her life, not knowing how to get rid of that stigma and that title that's been placed on her. And then all of a sudden she's repeating the cycle to her daughter, to her niece, to some other little girl that she meets in the street saying, you know, you fast, you know, she just fast, you know, she out in these streets. We have to affirm ourselves, acknowledge that we're not affirming ourselves or those around us. And we have to start valuing ourselves after we acknowledge that there's an issue. And that's something generational that we have to break. That's my opinion. It's generational. We've got to break it.
When I think why Black women, why don't we support each other, it is generational all the way back to slavery, I think is the constant of just black people in general, but particularly black women. We're always in competition with one another, and the jealousy, and it's been that way, you know. Oh, well, you're in the house, I'm in the it just it passes down. You got to be better than this one, you have to be better than her across the street. So it's not support, it's competition, and it just even in your own family. Well, my daughter does this and your daughter does that, and it's just passed down, and now every black woman around you that's not your friend, you're somewhat either not supporting them or you support them depending on what it is, you know. That's just my opinion. I think that's why we really don't get a lot of support from one another. And me purposely, I try to cheer every black woman I see for any reason, for any small thing. I have no problem being that, but I definitely have felt in my career I have gotten more let down and disappointment, not because I wasn't doing my job or looking for a handout, just because it's like, oh, who does black girl think she coming in? I'm used to being the black woman in the building that's kind of like whatever, and now here she comes. So what you want, you know? And it's just like, wow, whoa, you know, it happens, you know. And so now, and then we don't get the support from our black men, as you can see in the first two parts of the document. I mean, the docu series here, all of these black men around with these young girls, and not one of these black men decided, not even his own brothers decided to say, hey man, no, we not doing this. You know what I
So
mean?
a couple
Christian.
things, yeah, a couple things that is Ashley that you
Yes.
said that stood out. And the things I want to say, yes, it's definitely steeped in slavery and that mentality, but also I've been fortunate. I didn't see this in my nuclear family. This wasn't my mom and her sisters, but I've seen groups of women get together and just bash women and
Mm-hmm.
talk negatively about women. You can't trust women, women this, women that, women this. And our girls are seeing it as their example and they're repeating it. So
Mm-hmm.
I purposely engage in those conversations, in particular with young girls, and stop it. Because I'm like, so if you can't trust women, can you trust yourself? Because aren't you a woman in the making?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Right? We have to reframe the conversations and show our examples of sisterhood to these
Mm-hmm.
young girls. I am blessed beyond measure. I don't have a circle of women friends. I have several circle of
Mm-hmm.
black women friends who love me, who support me, who ride. I don't have sisters in my birth family. I have brothers. But when I tell you I'm surrounded by women who will go to bat for me, who have sat in the hospital with me, who have held me while I've cried, who have supported me in all of my endeavors. And that is what I show to the girls that I work with. Said, if you're surrounded by messy women, it might be because you're a messy woman. So let's not
Mm-hmm.
be a messy woman so that we can attract and be around other healthy women. Right? And that when we see
Amen.
somebody being messy, we don't have to tear that sister down. She's clearly already been torn down enough. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how can we build her up? How can we love her? We don't talk about how we can love other people back to wholeness, right?
Amen. That
So
is
we have
Well,
amen.
to
so
invest in loving people back to
I
wholeness so we can reshape these conversations and these experiences.
I
Amen.
hear you. So I hear what I'm hearing is how black women need to begin to trust and uplift and believe each other.
Themselves.
And themselves. I'm looking for black women to tell the rest of us what you need us to do.
Support us in that transformation.
Yes.
Like, there's a viral video going around right now of a young lady at a gas station, and these Negroes are surrounding her, are harassing her, are in her face. Bitch, don't act like you ain't never been called bitch before. Oh, you acting like somebody ain't never called you a hoe. Sir, what are you doing? And it's a group of men. And this woman is literally just trying to get gas. And she's like laughing it off and she's being cool. And people are like, oh, that means she's okay with it. No, she doesn't know how dangerous it's going to become if she's like, leave me the hell alone.
Right.
The
And
first
the
thing that
black.
men can do is literally at some points just leave us alone.
Yes. Yes.
Listen, if a young lady says no, thank you, ride out. If somebody is like, I'm not interested, just leave her be. And if you see your boys acting crazy, if someone does that, like, it don't take all that. She not interested, let it go and keep it moving. Black men, if you would just check each other and let us be, that would solve half the problem.
And I so agree with you, Christian. Thank you for saying that, because it makes me feel like Black men don't understand the amount of pressure that they put on Black women when they treat us a certain type of way. Well, he treats her this way, and he treats me this way, and now I can't stand her, and I'm hating on her, and I got a problem with her and everything that she has going on. He don't know this woman, and it's like then they're not protecting us as a whole. So I like what you said there. I'm glad you brought it up. I hadn't seen that video, but I have heard people talking
Girl, it's a
about it.
mess.
It's definitely a mess. So I mean, at the end of the day, we definitely need to uplift each other, but we need our Black men to stand up and be Black men and protect us and love us all. Period.
And not because it's your sister, not because it's your cousin or your grandma, your
Right.
auntie, but because it's a woman who has value.
It's
You
a
know, you can
Black queen. And thank you.
genuinely help a woman.
Listen, and I hear you. I hear you. I'm listening to you. I'm gonna bring Gerald back in a second because I'm the only man here, and I'm trying. I think that um, men we are wired differently, and we know that, right? Men and women are wired differently, and by default, like we literally it's like mixed signals. We hear, and I was having a conversation with one of my best friends, and she was telling me, listen, though we are strong Black women, and we say we're strong, independent Black women, that does not mean we're not looking for your protection.
Absolutely.
However, when we hear it, we hear strong Black independent. Like, all right, man, you good. And it's not like,
But
and I'm not, and it's
Dead.
wait, and it's not like, oh, you good, and we're gonna let you fit for yourself. Like, I see you being attacked, I'm coming in, but like, if you more rah than me, like, it's like, all right, well then, like,
so let
and
me
and
let
and
me
and,
But
and,
we
and, and
are
wait,
that
wait, wait, wait,
way.
wait. So, and I understand, and it's a little bit different, like, I'm from the South. I grew up in the South. I'm up here now, and like, and this is really no shade to like, whew, I'm gonna get myself in some hot water because I know there's gonna be a replay here. But sometimes like it's for I'm a Southern gentleman. Okay, that's who I am. So I encounter someone here, and it's like, yo, son, move, son, and I'm like, yo, ma'am, sir, ma'am, I can't. I don't know like where to go. I don't know how to.
But it could
I,
be it's hurt
I
behind
I'm
that.
like, yeah, and
it's not just hurt. So I'm gonna take it real. I'm gonna take it real deep and real way back for a second. I'm gonna tell you, at least from my perspective, where that I'm a strong Black woman comes from.
You
I
ain't had no damn
know,
choice.
I I know generations of women within my own bloodline that didn't have a choice but to be a strong Black woman.
I mean,
Because,
and I'm
because
not.
wait, 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 wait,
Okay,
wait, wait, wait,
we can argue
wait,
about. I know
wait,
Harriet Tubman didn't have a choice.
wait. I'm
I
not even.
know
I'm
Rosa.
not. I'm
I
not even talking
know
about that.
Rosa didn't have a
I'm not even talking
choice.
about that.
And you're talking about you like there's strong Black women in my bloodline that didn't have a choice.
Wait,
Girl, you
Alex,
30. You
Alex,
30. You
Alex.
30. I
Listen,
mean, I'm listening.
listen.
I'm listening.
I'm talking about women
I'm
whose
listening.
men were ripped away from them because they were sold off as slaves to another family. I'm talking about men who were stripped away because they were thrown in prisons. I'm talking about men who were stripped away because they had drug and alcohol abuse because of the things that they suffered at the hands of their masters, whatever that master was, which left the women at home to take care of the kids, to work all the jobs, to do all the things, to be at the school, to be in the community, to be that strong Black woman. So when you have generations of that handed down, even when it changed, it's hard to go from Egypt to the promised land. And
It's
so
a
then
survival skill.
it is
I hear
absolutely
you.
a survival skill.
It's a
I hear
survival
you.
skill. I'm
I hear you.
strong because I'm a single woman who doesn't know if I can trust somebody to come over to my house and help me do something and my safety be intact,
I
right?
got you.
Because
Right.
I
you'll get
got you.
people who'll say if something happens to me, well, why you invite a grown man over to your house? Well, I invited him over to help me build this damn shelf. That
Right.
doesn't mean that it was open for something more. So you being strong again, it's a survival skill. We
Okay.
want
Hold
to
on. Hold on.
thrive,
Hold on. Hold
and
that
that
thought.
gets difficult.
Hold on. Gerald thinks we missed the point. What's up?
I was ready to talk about, I swear, I was ready to come back and talk about Andrea Kelly and my issues or how he's had 11 albums since this thing came out.
And we're gonna get there. We will.
But no, you know what? But I think so. What's problematic for me here is, and I want to leave that word in 2018, but looking at this documentary, because we only saw women, I think that it's sort of sad or problematic that we only make this about women. This should be something that we encompass everybody, because there are 1 in 6 men that are sexually abused, and that doesn't even begin to count the experiences where you're not touched. And I could even get into the theory that I have that when he was molested, R. Kelly himself, he wasn't molested by a woman, he was molested by a man, because there are so many signs there. There are so many different things. But I won't get that deep yet. But like, to be quite honest, like, we hear this all the time. You see this and we associate it with woman, 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 woman. And then a man has to be strong for that woman, but you never ever hear that in reverse. So it's really important that we put that out there, because if I'm being candid right now, we can sit there and we can play this game. So I'm part of surviving V103. I've had somebody at that particular radio station try to use their power. Oh yeah, I have time tonight.
Whoa.
Hey, I don't have enough tea.
Whoa.
You better put a
Whoa.
pot on, sis.
Jesus.
Listen.
Put a
Tried-
pot
Listen.
on.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say that at one point I used to host a show called The Shake Up. Okay,
I remember.
I'm not really in the shake up business no more. And you just shook me. I just got shook.
Whew.
Um,
He said, I survived.
So my thing is, and that was not being touched. You're using your influence to try to get me to screw you. Like, it happens to us too. So if we want to address this or we want to come up with solutions, I think we all as a whole need to stop saying women, 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 because we are leaving out a large group of people that, I mean, like I told you, I'm
So
surviving.
let me ask a question. How do we, as the strong Black woman, create that safe space or let you know that you are allowed to have a safe space in us if you are still trying to be that strong Black man and not um, let us in? How do we create that safe space or communicate that there is a safe space to be had in us?
Hmm. Well, I mean, I don't think, and I hate to say it like this because I don't think that you're like that, Tiffany, but I do feel like a lot of women are hypocritical where they want a strong Black man, but they aren't willing to do what it takes to make a man feel like they're safe and they can say anything. Because I legit think that's one of the reasons that R. Kelly is the way he is. Like, he had nobody to run to. Like, just hearing those molestation stories when he was young, just they floored me. And the way he talks about his mom, I don't know if y'all heard him when he was older saying that he loved her shape, her voice, and everything about her. And at one point he wanted to marry her when he was like 10 years old, some crazy stuff. But honestly, because Black women in particular set men up to be so strong in their mind from the moment that we're children, we don't know how to, because, well, I can't, because I really can't give you an answer. Like, I'm stumbling because,
no, it's okay. We're having the conversation. I think the conversation is necessary. I think that everything that you said plays a part in this. Kristen, I think everything you said plays a part in this. Ashley, everything you said. Tiffany, everything you said. I think there's a problem in our community. We have problems in our community, and
Therapy.
we it's a lack of therapy. It's a lack of honesty. It's a lack of conversation. It is sweeping things under the rug, and then you have all of a sudden you have and we talk about it. We're kind of a different breed. We're the generation, like, I'm that person in my family that I want to talk about it all. Like,
Yep.
I don't care. I don't care. Okay, well, I wasn't supposed to say that. I said it, and then she's here, and I'm gonna say it to her, and I'm gonna say it to him, and we can all sit down. I used to host a shake up, and I'm gonna shake this damn family. That's what we gonna do. But everyone's not like that, and we don't. We not only have to have those conversations with our blood family, but with our chosen family. That we're around people, like, times are different. We're separated from families. We are around different people at all. Like, there's we are creating family and doing life with people that we're around all the time, and still being surface level with them. So I think it goes deeper. Like, it runs really, really deep. Um, but I think we have to keep talking about this, right? How
Absolutely.
do we You know, like I still don't feel like I think I'm starting to get a grasp on it, but I still don't have a concrete answer from anyone. Like, what does the black woman need us to do? Because as you
Go to
guys were
therapy.
navigating us, and that's an
And
option.
I say that from an honest, like a real place. Like I'm not being funny. I honestly think everybody should go to therapy at some point for
Preach.
some period of time because we
Preach.
all have these traumas, these things that we've dealt with that we don't discuss in our families, that we may not feel like we have a safe place where we could talk about it and not be judged. And quite frankly, I can't be invested in your healing if I'm not invested in my own. Right? So if we started doing the individual work of seeking our own healing, now I'm actually in a healthier mental space for you to process through yours. And I say this as a person who had someone that I've known my entire life confide in me today that they had been molested as a child, and it was a male, right? And they're now trying to figure out all of this Me Too and all this R. Kelly is triggering for this 38-year-old adult. And they're like, I don't know what to do with this now. And you're the only person I can talk to,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's and one of the reasons why they feel like they can talk to me is because I've been very honest about my own healing and health journey, right? So we need examples of what healing and wholeness look like so that then people kind of know where to go to find the light, right?
Right.
So the thing we can all do for each other is say, I'm going to commit to the work to be healthy and whole. So that means me going to therapy. I'm going to go to therapy. If that means me having a conversation with my mama because she didn't do anything about it when I told her so and so touched me, well, I'm going to go talk to my mama or my uncle or my cousin or my whoever I need to talk to so that healing can come. We can't have community wide healing. We can't help everybody because we're not helping the body we are.
And I hear
Right.
you, and I hear you, and I think that while I think therapy is a great solution, everyone does need to go, and everybody can't go. Like, it costs money. So
But they have
before they
free
get to therapy, and I get it. Before that, though, when do we start talking to each other?
At
And
the very beginning.
when do we
Yep.
like what when do we create those safe spaces to have those discussions and the hard discussions? And Kristen, the only reason someone can have that conversation with you is because you've made it comfortable. So when do we get past the BS in the conversations that we're having and go there? Um,
But let
and
me.
and I
Who's gonna be the
and
brave soul to start it off? Like that. I
But
mean, I'm very public right now with my mental health journey, and as a result, I got all manner of inbox and text messages, right? Because I've just been very public. So you ask me, what do we need to do? Are we gonna be the brave souls to start the conversation?
so see, my thing with that is because I don't know anybody's journey but my own. I will say I do believe you can't have community without having some type of communication. I grew up in a household where my parents, I could talk about them about anything. So when I see some of these things, it's because I know that people were never able to communicate with the people that should be closest to them. But because I have my mother and my father saying, what do you want to talk about? Or this is how a penis works. This is how a vagina works. I'll love you no matter what. A, B, and C. I don't have some of the issues or need the therapy because I always had a safe space. It didn't take a brave soul. It was something that was given to me January 28th, the year that I was born. And it continues with, and people see that in me. So I become a light for people to want to talk. But I think if more people did that, because Black families don't do that, we could even avoid some things like therapy for things that can be so easily remedied.
By
Um,
a conversation.
yeah, like having conversation. I was
Yep.
not allowed to go upstairs if there was an issue. My mom saw, bring your ass back downstairs. We're going to talk. Why
Mm-hmm.
do you look like this? Why do you feel like this? So there were no secrets in my house. Like
Right.
both my parents knew exactly who I was and the people that were close in that circle. So it wasn't any margin of error there. And if it were, that was something that we saw as a whole and we corrected as a whole. So I think that before we even jump to things like therapy, we need to because I give this to my nephew who's 7 now. He knows he can call me and tell me anything. He just had a moment where he did something very, very stupid and we had a whole talk. And I told him, even though I was pissed off at him, I told him, like, I'm glad that you talked to me because you can talk to me about anything. And when you make people feel like that, you avoid so much going down the road.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Facts.
answer with a simple prompting question. I am also a huge proponent of therapy, have been in therapy for off and on a few years, steadily over the last 2 years. And one of the first questions that my therapist asked me at every appointment is, how is your spirit? How's your spirit today? And so I took that and I started asking my friends to do their own spirit check, but I even send reminders. I will just randomly, if it's on my heart, send text messages, WhatsApp messages, group messages, whatever. Where's your spirit today? To do spirit checks, because that's a different question than how are you? When you check someone's spirit, it automatically, it's not just a, well, how are you? Oh, I'm fine, whatever. So many times we wear the mask of, I'm fine, I'm good, oh, I'm having a great day, or that whole fake it till you make it mindset that we try to preach and teach. Sometimes I don't feel like faking it till I make it. Sometimes I need to tell you I feel like shit and I need help. Point blank, period. So I think creating the environment within our communities and within our friendships and within our familial relationships of just having genuine questions for each other. What do you need? How is your spirit? And making sure that it is communicated. And even if the answer is, I don't know at first, being patient enough to work with the people around you so that when they are finally at that point where they trust that you're a safe space, they know they have at least one person they can come to. And sometimes that takes a long time. Sometimes that takes patience. Sometimes that takes practice of getting frustrated or not getting an immediate response of, thank you for asking. I'm actually not doing so well today. You're not always going to get that up front, but if you be consistent in your genuine communication and concern with those around you, then when something is wrong, they tend to come to you and gravitate towards you and have those conversations. I'm also like Kristen. If I give my number to you, I normally tell you, you can call me anytime. And I let that person know that I genuinely mean it. Shut up. I've had conversations until
you're putting this nice face on for the camera. I know the real you.
I just don't talk to you.
I will call anyway, but I'm just saying.
I know you do. Most of my friends do.
I think that I mean, to your point though, I think you make some excellent points, and I think like this I'm glad we got to this part of the conversation, because this is like us talking to each other. This is why we don't do this. So this is why Black women are unheard, unbelieved, and not valued. Because we're not even talking. We're not talking to them. We're not listening to them. We're not believing them. Y'all aren't talking to each other. We don't talk to each other, and we barely talk to y'all. You know what I'm saying? So that's a problem. That's how we get to this place. That's how we get to this space. And I wanna keep unpacking it. I think that, and like I said, when we put this together, this Surviving R. Kelly series, there's a lot there, and I saw a lot, I felt a lot, I watched it, and then I got to a certain part, and I saw some other things that that didn't quite sit well with me. We'll get there. In this series, and over the next 2 days, we'll continue to unpack, and we have some other people, some other thoughts. Of course, the panel we have tonight has been amazing. But we can't go on without talking about predators, and predators in the family, predators in the community, and our acceptance of these predators. Like, I don't give a damn if it's your uncle or your brother. Sweeping it under the rug is not okay. And so, if we'll do it at home, of course we did it with R. Kelly. This is like when I sat back and thought about some of this, and I'm like, people are like, well, how did we let this go on for so long? It's been going on in your family like for 40 years. And then 40 years before that. And then 40 years before that. And so, the predators are in the family, they're in the community, they're in the church. And we'd be like, oh yeah, don't stand too close to him. Like, what's that gonna solve? He's already touched him. He's already touched her. It's already happened. And yeah, don't talk about it. You're like, come on. And then I think a lot of this, we talk about family, we also got to talk about community.
Yeah.
and we haven't talked enough, and we're not showing enough about responsibility. We got to wrap this one up, but I'm gonna bring our guests back and give everyone a final word. Um, Gerald, Kristen, Ashley, you've been wonderful. Gerald, how about you get the first final word?
Well, it's 2019. We all need to do better. Um, Instead of placing blame and instead of bitching, let's find a way to make things right so we don't have to worry about shit like this going forward.
Fair enough. How do people keep up with you?
You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at musicman128. And what is my name on Facebook? Gerald Hargrove, Hargrow.
Awesome. Ashley,
Hey guys, thanks for this opportunity. I had a great time fellowshipping with you all tonight, and I will try to keep up. I will say we have to learn to be vulnerable with one another. I don't think we as a Black community are vulnerable with each other the way that we should be. Once we tap into vulnerability, then we can start to accept accountability, being able to really try to change things. So we have to start there, being vulnerable, and it's not vulnerable. There's strength in vulnerability. So we have to, so we can work on the accountability piece. And that's my final word for tonight. But you can follow me on Instagram. I really don't know my Twitter name, but my Instagram is BR00K, the letter N, the THE city. Brooke in
awesome.
the city. Thanks.
Ashley, thank you so much. All right, and Kristen.
Thank you guys so much for this opportunity. Y'all are awesome. And I appreciate it. My final word will be listen when people are telling you what's happening to them. Listen to children, listen to Black women, listen to Black men, listen to people when they find the courage to be vulnerable and be honest about what they're experiencing, and do what you can to help them in that moment, in that process, to seek justice, to seek peace, right? And to be made whole again. Okay? Broken people
Gotcha.
do broken people things. So let's stop breaking people. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you so
And
much.
Black Girl BLKGRL Self Care Revolution is how you can find me
We'll put
on
it up,
Instagram.
and I'll post everything as well. Thanks so much, Kristen.
Thank you
I
guys.
hope you stay a part of this conversation all week. All right, Tiff.
Yep.
Man, this we really could have gone on and on. And I looked at the time, I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, 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 whoa. We got
When did
tomorrow.
an
We got
hour go by?
Thursday.
Right.
Yeah, we got tomorrow. We have Thursday. And we're doing it on this platform. Tiff, we pop up on all types of pages. We'll be back on the same page tomorrow. And so invite people, share this. It'll be up tonight. It's going to air on our radio stations. I'll post it on my pages, on my social media tomorrow. You'll hear the same conversation. Once the series is over, you'll be able to download it, talk about it. This is the kind of stuff you need to talk about with your families. Get together. It's not about like us having the collective conversation, but you take this conversation and you have it in your workplace, have it with your circle of friends, have it at the brunch table. Like we literally talk about everything else. We talk
Right.
about everything else. And when
Right.
it comes down to and part of the reason, another reason that this stuff has to happen, and this is a personal vendetta for me. A lot of y'all are going in churches and they ain't talk about it.
Listen to me. My
Like
God,
you
today.
sitting up in these churches, and I'm not gonna go there, but
That's a whole other. That's a whole
you
other
know where
series.
my heart is. So we're back here tomorrow. This will air tomorrow. I'll let all that out tomorrow, 10 p.m. Hopefully we'll have some of these guys that were here tonight back, as well as some other people that have signed on. And if you're interested, you have something you want to add to the conversation, drop me an email. Alex.haynes@bossfm.com, or drop me a DM. We'd be happy to have you, and we want you to be a part of this conversation. Tiff, your final word.
If nothing else, tonight, tomorrow, Thursday night, I hope that we give at least some good promptings for questions to pose to your family, to your community, to your friends, to at least get the dialogue started. I hope, hope that the dialogue does not end with the docuseries. I think it would be tragic and a disservice to the survivors, to the parents. No matter how we feel about them, they still are stories and experiences that are worthy of at least a continuous dialogue. So, like I said, tonight, tomorrow, Thursday night, I hope that, like Alex said, participate in the conversation, ask your own questions. I saw a couple of comments about requesting us to talk about the parents and all of that. I promise you we will hit all of that because we, of course, have thoughts. But I hope that it is at least a good conversation starter, a dialogue starter, not just about sweeping things under the rug, but what we can do as a community and as a people to support one another and value each other more.
Awesome. Again, hit me if you want to be a part of this. My email address is on the screen. And we're back here tomorrow. Thank you guys for participating. And thanks again to Gerald and Kristen and Ashley. Tiff, of course. I hope you guys have a great night. Do not go to sleep to any R. Kelly.
No, Jesus.
Good night.
Good night.